A manhunt for a suspect wanted for making criminal threats and misleading police officers ensued through parts of Los Angeles on Tuesday, April 15th.
Must be something pretty serious. You can see it right there. Just got off the freeway. This is right by the convention center. I can get a little bit wider. Don't know if his plans are to get back onto the freeway or not. And I'm also wondering where the black and whites are. I know that there is a helicopter above it still making calls. The car just made a turn right there. Oh, you can see it. We're picking up Pico right now. So now we're going to be heading westbound on Pico Boulevard. There was some moments on that 110 freeway where we're keeping an eye on it. High speeds, probably touching about 90, maybe 80 miles an hour. But when I say those numbers, you have to remember, in traffic, this vehicle making its own lane the entire time, doing it once again, now going into oncoming traffic. There was a pedestrian in the road, in that walkway, clear from that vehicle, but running red lights, and it basically, as you're seeing it right now, just taking any opportunity to get through or by somebody as they're continuing on. Now, Baroxia, I'm sure you guys, and people at home, I'm sure we all see it, some damage on that front of that vehicle. Not sure if that's from the pursuit or before the pursuit, but definitely this car has some damage on the front end, but that driver continues to drive extremely reckless, wrong side of the road, high speeds, putting a lot of the public in danger.
The silver car driven by the suspect was seen traveling northbound on the 405 freeway in the Long Beach area, then on the 110 freeway before arriving in Koreatown.
What else do we know about the vehicle, aside from the fact we do see that front end damage? We're uncertain when that happened. The vehicle, as far as being stolen, we don't have that information, and we also don't know how many people are inside of that vehicle. Am I right?
No, I haven't heard anything. I mean, clearly there is the driver. I do know it's a Ford. I believe it's a Ford Fusion. Don't quote me on that. That's not really my type of vehicle to keep an eye on. But this one, I can tell you, moving along very, very quickly out here. We're making our way in the Harvard Heights area. Just think Adams, Jefferson area right in there. And you know what? I can see that the vehicle's slowing down a little bit. It looks like we're making a turn. Now, this is actually maybe a good thing. Maybe they're making their way back over to the 10 freeway, northbound on Vermont. We're going to be heading into Koreatown if he keeps up this direction. And I venture to say we're going to start seeing some traffic out there. That was the helicopter that I was talking about. Actually went right by the police station. That was what I was going wide for. I was just kind of curious. I'm like, isn't there a police station right there? Isn't that Olympic? Anyways, just went right by it. The sheriff's overhead. There was a black and white out there. They are keeping an eye on it. But this is one of those things. They have to kind of be invited to the dance. And then on top of that, their bosses have to say, or the sergeants have to say, yeah, we can engage into this pursuit. Right now, though, I believe that they're more in a tracking mode. The sheriff's department, their helicopter clearly above it. We're clearly above it as well. So they have an eye on it, and they know where this vehicle is. Now, I've said it in the past, when these things come to an end, hopefully we'll see some magical appearance of some law enforcement. Look at that. That motorcyclist, probably not too happy about that. Yeah, I would have been a little grumpy about that too. And of course, every time we go through these intersections, I'm always looking for pedestrians. It looks like this is a destination, making our way northbound now. Oh, there he goes. And these are smaller streets. So I kind of wonder if he's going someplace where he knows where maybe he can park the car, get out and run. But again, the tighter roads doesn't mean this is coming to an end. Tighter roads means that...
Stu, for those who don't watch frequently, we cover so many pursuits, but often we will use the phrase tracking mode, and they're going to track the vehicle at this point. Let our viewers know what that means and when that is used.
Well, tracking mode is basically all the ground units. It looks like we're coming to a stop. It looks like he picked an area right here. I don't know what this is all about. Doors open and out and running. It looks like he's going right into an apartment building, which is good or bad. Now, LAPD, hopefully they are nearby. I know the sheriff's department, their helicopter definitely was overhead, just kind of left the vehicle there. I'm going to keep an eye on that courtyard. That's the only spot that I really can take a peek at. I'm going to look at that front entrance way as well, but definitely looks like he ran into this apartment building out here, clearly on New Hampshire Avenue. And again, we'll get you an exact address, but right now, law enforcement not here. And that suspect basically ran into 425 New Hampshire. I don't know if this is a location that he knows somebody. If that vehicle is registered to him, I can almost guarantee you law enforcement's going to be knocking on his door eventually. But right now, car sitting out on the roadway, suspect ran into the apartment building, and we'll see. Possibly we're going to get some 911 calls. And there is the sheriff's helicopter. And Araxia, to answer the question that you asked so long ago, tracking mode is where they basically discontinue the vehicles on the ground, and they just let the helicopter track it. It has worked in the past, especially when there's reckless driving. They'll basically start driving a little bit more calm. In this case, we didn't see anything like that. That vehicle continued to make those fast moves out there and drove very reckless. But right now, though, that suspect inside one of these apartment buildings, 425. I'm looking for the car once again. I shouldn't have followed the helicopter, but at any rate, the pursuit portion of this now over.
Well, you know, with tracking mode, they do that because they don't want to endanger the public. As you said, sometimes you have a busy area, there's pedestrians around or just cars, and obviously the people on the road have no idea what's going on. So they do that in order to not escalate the situation. In this case, though, because they were in tracking mode, it looks like it gave this individual an opportunity to somewhat get a head start in their escape plan. So as we can see, that car down below, that was the suspect's vehicle, and it appears as though he was the only person in that vehicle. And at this time, it looks like officers have arrived. You see deputies down below, and they're going into that parking garage. But that's a big building, and this person could be pretty much anywhere, especially if it's an area they're familiar with. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like, and I seem to agree with that, is that he ran in through the garage door. I thought for a second, though, he went through that front door. But when he ran out, now I'm kind of thinking the other way, too. I don't think he went into the underground parking. I'm not 100% on that. I can tell you, though, California Highway Patrol now here on scene, and they are going to be making that effort to take that suspect into custody. They definitely have the vehicle. There is no doubt about that. We haven't heard anything about it being stolen, so if it is registered, the registered owner is going to have to make some kind of effort to pick that vehicle back up. That might be the time they have a discussion with the driver of that car. And again, though, they didn't give this up, so that makes me think that this, whatever that criminal threat was a crime that they really wanted to take this person into custody. Because a lot of times lately, we see these pursuits, they're much shorter now, as they look at the situation, they weigh the public safety, and then they back off. But in this case, they kept with it, and then they actually were calling for 2 helicopters at one point. One of them needed fuel, so it had to go in, but they didn't want to let it go. So whatever that driver was wanted for is something pretty serious.
So just for people who weren't following.
The suspect stopped in front of an apartment building near South New Hampshire Avenue and West 4th Street around 12:15 p.m., where he abandoned the vehicle and entered the apartment complex. Officers were seen entering the building searching for the suspect. He was eventually located and taken into custody.
Open so they can get out, but clearly they have weapons drawn, all of them at one point, and so, like, again, I have to wonder what that criminal threat was, what that person is really wanted for. The officers now making their way out. I know one of the officers went by himself into the building. Again, I wish I had a little bit more information. If we knew that this vehicle was registered there, then at least we would have information on the apartment number. I'm venturing to say that it is not, because of the fact that these officers aren't making their way into the apartment building. But right now, a search for a very dangerous suspect after pursuit came to an end out here in Koreatown.
A white Mustang was seen driving recklessly at high speeds in the southbound lanes of the 405 freeway. On the freeway, the suspect was driving on the shoulder of the freeway, avoiding other vehicles, and traveling between 90 and 110 miles per hour.
Yeah, I think that's even a Bentley. And he's continuing on, getting back into that far right lane. That seems to be his little key, his little getaway card. But right now, he's not getting away from the LAPD. The helicopter's making the calls. We are hearing it. They're talking about re-engaging that pursuit, but they've got to get units in position. They've got to call ahead, make sure there's somebody that might be nearby. Was another close one right there. there. Looks like people are kind of leaning off to the right.
Really
and, that was an off-ramp right back over, and now it's continuing on. My fear right now, I feel that Jeff is climbing and climbing. So Jeff's our pilot this morning, at the tiller of Skyfox. I guess we're taking an off-ramp. And so that's a good thing for us because we're making our way into LAX's airspace.
He's going carte blanche on these lanes right now, and so he just got off at an exit. There he is again.
Back on.
Right. It doesn't seem to really matter what lane he's in. He was just narrowly missing a lot of those cars. He's driving a Mustang, so obviously big engine there. Now he just came to a full stop in the middle of the road, and he's going in reverse.
Changed his mind. Yeah. Change his mind in reverse on this on-ramp right there. Other cars, I mean, they're like that guy in that black car is probably like, what is going on here? In kind of stopping. Looks like we're going to do a three-point turn. That used to be on the driving test. He's going to see where he pops out. There he goes. And now we're going to be on surface streets. There is an opportunity to get back onto the, there's what I thought he was going to do. Getting back onto the 405. Not really sure what the plan is here, and most likely that driver has no plan, but it's back onto that 405 freeway. Now we're going to be heading northbound on that 405. Whoop, up. See, that's Roxy was just talking about that, I think. And these are those type of maneuvers. It could be so tragic for any of these vehicles involved. Even that driver of the suspect in this vehicle trying to get away. And get away from what? Right now it's the helicopters above them. These maneuvers, they're not changing anything, and it's really truly just putting the public at risk. If the LAPD had a vehicle behind it, this is not a commentary, this isn't anything like that, maybe there'd be some lights and sirens. But even with this kind of reckless driving, LAPD would, even trained drivers would have a difficulty keeping up safely, and that's what the law enforcement has to do. Right now the helicopter's making calls, everybody's keeping an eye on it. Looks like we're getting back oh wait a minute, is it a transition or an off-ramp? Looks like we're going to be getting off the freeway once again. Maybe he's looking for something out here in the West LA area, but this one is going to be tight right there. He's kind of stuck, and this is one of those opportunities where if law enforcement, there they are, hello, they might have been able to do a hard pit right there, even with a lot of other vehicles in the way. Maybe that would have brought this to an end. Right now, though, we're going to wait and see where he pops out. There he is. And now it is a full-on pursuit. You got the LAPD in the air and on the ground. And, of course, the driving not getting any better, but at least law enforcement is there. Lights and sirens might be able to warn the public.
Looks like he's getting back on an on-ramp yet again. Stu, you said this was a possible kidnapping suspect. Do we know if he's the only person in the car? Were you able to zoom in and see when he was on the surface streets?
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking about really tinted windows. It looks like there is a passenger. I would venture to say there is a passenger right there. That's we can use the digital doubler, but maybe it was shadows, but it definitely looked like there is somebody in the passenger seat. And now I'm just repeating what they're saying was everything can change when it comes to when everything's said and done. But now we're hearing possible domestic violence victim inside that vehicle. So it's constantly changing, very fluid. But right now, what I can tell you, very erratic driving and in traffic. Now we're picking up the 90, so we're going to be heading out towards Marina Del Rey.
Yeah, that's
this is a short little hop of it's a short little hop.
Sentinella, he should be approaching Sentinella.
It's kind of wide open.
Yeah. I know exactly where that is.
What's he doing now?
That's a pretty wide area with typically not a lot of traffic on that stretch of the road, but yeah, Sentinella will be coming up fairly shortly, and we'll see what he does here. But it looks like, as we were saying, he seems to be moving in and out of these lanes, emergency lanes, on-ramps, off-ramps, just kind of using the road as carte blanche right now and going very, very fast.
Very, very fast. And now I'm getting information that possibly he's lost the front driver's side tire. So if that's the case, at these high speeds, that wobble we're seeing, it might get a lot worse. And those fast lane changes, I don't know if that's attributed to the fact that he is missing, it might be having a low tire, or possibly just, who knows? Who knows? Maybe this is one of those emotional moments. This person is trying to get away. Now I'm going to say nobody in the passenger seat. as we're kind of looking in there, the window is down. So, you know, maybe this is just emotional. You know, maybe there was some sort of situation. Domestic violence is what we're hearing. So who knows what's going through this driver's mind. But I'm just telling you, the public safety is really what I'm worried about. Yep, and we're coming up on stop traffic here, or a red light. This could, well, thank goodness for some of these other cars in the way. But at any rate, you're going to keep an eye on it. I just don't want to see this end badly.
Stu, I know the way we are right now. Again, a reverse.
Yeah, he's getting pinched. He really does not want to make any stops whatsoever on this road.
Well,
or any
now
of these
there's
roads.
some traffic. Like, you have no choice at this point, so you
Always
can either
a Prius.
look at that.
Yeah. And I don't know what this is all about, but this, you know, I'm going to stay a little bit. I'm going to stay a little bit wider because, like I said, the driver might be very emotional. I don't want to see any kind of situation where it might be, you know, suicide by officer or some kind of situation like that. Clearly, that driver not in a solid, you know, state right now. So going to stay a little bit wider. I'm going to take a peek real quick, but then I'm going to go wide again. But just to see what that driver's doing, if we can see him through that front windscreen. But coming to a stop like that with the officer in this type of confrontation, I'm going to stay careful with the video so we don't see anything. Or
well, Stu, and then do you notice
if we're a little bit wider if something does unfold? There's
a civilian vehicle, and it looks like officers just got that individual out of the car, obviously for their own safety. That just kind of got trapped in the back there. There's that gentleman, an innocent civilian, a bystander who got caught up in all of this. Right behind that vehicle, they got him out of the car. Everyone else cleared the way. They saw that, you know, something's going on here. It is so tinted, those windows. It is so hard to make out anything.
And I'm sure officers are being cautious for that reason. On edge, they're probably trying to talk him down and make sure that this is a peaceful surrender. It looks like he kind of climbed. He's trying to get out. I don't know, can you zoom in a little bit more so we can see if he's okay?
Well,
I know you kind of have to keep your distance.
Yeah, if he has a weapon or something like that, it looks like it looks like a wallet. But these are those super tense situations where, you know, officers, they are, you know, they're on edge. That driver clearly in an emotional state, and probably a lot of adrenaline as well. So, you know, rational decisions, I don't really know. But it's like basically it's like he's saying, "Hey, come to me." That's what I'm reading as body language. I don't see any weapons. It looks like he's got a phone and a driving glove on. So, you know, maybe he is a professional driver. Who knows? But at any rate, getting back into the car. But the passenger, I wonder why that passenger just hasn't got
it blocked off. But where it's situated is it's actually in an industrial part of Marina del Rey. But Mindanao Way is certainly a pretty big thoroughfare. As he's out of the car right now and gesturing toward police. You know, confrontational body language there.
The suspect exited the vehicle several times, making gestures and speaking to officers. After a few minutes, the driver walked away from the vehicle, at which point officers moved in and attempted to arrest him. The suspect quickly returned to his vehicle, but more than 6 officers caught up with him and pulled him out of the vehicle. The driver was arrested.
No weapons are out or anything like that. You got the other door open right now. They're taking out the the passenger right there. Right. So that's the passenger and the driver. You know, a little bit of force. There's no doubt about that. But this is just physical force. There are no weapons out, no batons, nothing like that. They're just swarming him, getting him down, and now they're going to cuff him. But as far as that passenger, there we go. There definitely was a passenger inside that vehicle. Going to be taken into custody. They're probably going to have some questions, but you know, who knows what was going on there. This will all come out later on in the wash, as it would be. But right now, that suspect's still wrestling with officers, and but definitely in cuffs now.